Welcome to Easy Classic Stories. This is a retelling of The Picture of Dorian Gray, a novel by Oscar Wilde. The Picture of Dorian Gray is a famous book by Oscar Wilde. It's about a young man named Dorian Gray. He has a special picture that stays young while he grows old, but the picture shows his bad actions. The book is very successful. Many people love it. It has been turned into movies and plays. It's a story about beauty, youth, and the choices we make. Now listen carefully to the story. At the end, we'll have an exercise on key events to help test your understanding. In a beautiful studio in London, an artist named Basil Hallward was painting a portrait. The person in the painting was a young man named Dorian Gray. Dorian was very handsome, with a face that made people stop and stare. Basil loved painting Dorian because he thought Dorian was the most beautiful person he had ever seen. One day while Basil was painting, his friend Lord Henry Wotton visited the studio. Lord Henry was a clever man who liked to talk about his ideas. He saw the portrait of Dorian and was amazed. "It is the finest portrait of modern times," Lord Henry said. "Basil, this is your masterpiece." Basil was happy, but also worried. He didn't want Lord Henry to meet Dorian because he thought Lord Henry might influence Dorian in a bad way. But it was too late. Lord Henry met Dorian and started talking to him about his ideas. He told Dorian that beauty and pleasure were the most important things in life. Dorian listened carefully and was very interested in Lord Henry's words. Dorian looked at his portrait and thought about what Lord Henry had said. He wished that he could stay young and beautiful forever, just like in the painting. He didn't want to grow old and ugly. "I would give my soul for that," Dorian said, looking at the portrait. Basil was shocked. "Dorian, don't talk like that," he said. "Your beauty is something special, but it's not everything." But Dorian didn't listen. He kept thinking about his wish. He wanted to stay young and beautiful forever, no matter what. Little did he know his wish would come true in a very strange and terrible way. As the days passed, Dorian spent more time with Lord Henry. He listened to Lord Henry's ideas about life and beauty. Dorian started to believe that he should do whatever he wanted, as long as it made him happy. He didn't think about the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, Basil finished the portrait. It was truly a masterpiece. Everyone who saw it was amazed by Dorian's beauty. But Basil was worried. He saw how Lord Henry was influencing Dorian and feared that something bad might happen. One day Dorian looked at the portrait again. He remembered his wish and felt a strange feeling. He didn't know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. The portrait would play a big role in his future, and it would show the true nature of his soul. Dorian Gray became very popular in London. Everyone knew him because he was so handsome and charming. He went to many parties and met important people. Lord Henry was always by his side, whispering his ideas about pleasure and beauty. Dorian listened and began to live his life according to these ideas. One evening, Dorian went to the theatre with Basil and Lord Henry. There he saw a beautiful young actress named Sybil Vane. Sybil was playing the role of Juliet in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Dorian was amazed by her performance and fell in love with her. He visited the theatre every night to watch her act. Dorian told Basil and Lord Henry about his love for Sybil. "She is the most wonderful actress I have ever seen," Dorian said. "I love her, and I want to marry her." Basil was surprised. "Dorian, are you sure? She is just an actress," he said. But Dorian didn't care. He was in love and wanted to be with Sybil. He visited her backstage after one of her performances and told her how he felt. Sybil was happy and said she loved him too. They decided to get married. One night, Dorian invited Basil and Lord Henry to see Sybil perform. He wanted them to see how talented she was, but that night, Sybil's acting was terrible. She forgot her lines and didn't act well. Dorian was very disappointed. After the show, Dorian went to see Sybil. He was angry and cruel. "You acted badly because you love me," he said. "Your love has killed your art." Sybil was shocked and sad. "Dorian, I love you. I only want to be with you," she said. But Dorian didn't listen. He said hurtful things to Sybil and left. Sybil was heartbroken. She didn't know what to do. She loved Dorian so much, but he had been so cruel to her. The next day, Dorian received a letter from Sybil's brother, James. James wrote that Sybil had killed herself because she was so sad. Dorian was shocked but also felt a strange sense of freedom. He realized that his words and actions had a big impact on people. Lord Henry visited Dorian and talked to him about Sybil's death. "Life is too short to worry about such things," Lord Henry said. "You should enjoy your youth and beauty." Dorian listened and began to think that Lord Henry was right. He decided to live his life without worrying about the consequences of his actions. He wanted to experience everything and enjoy his youth and beauty forever. Little did he know, his wish would come true in a very strange and terrible way. After Sybil's death, Dorian Gray returned home. He felt strange and wanted to see his portrait again. He went up to the attic where the painting was kept. As he looked at it, he noticed something shocking. The portrait had changed. The face in the painting looked cruel and old. Dorian was surprised and scared. He remembered his wish, that the portrait would age instead of him. He realized that his wish had come true. The portrait was showing the effects of his cruel words to Sybil. How horrible, Dorian thought. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He touched his own face and felt smooth young skin. But the face in the portrait was different. It showed lines of cruelty and age. Dorian decided to hide the portrait in the attic. He didn't want anyone to see it. He locked the door and kept the key with him all the time. He was afraid of what the portrait might reveal about him. Days turned into weeks, and Dorian continued to live his life as before. He went to parties, met new people, and enjoyed his youth and beauty. But he couldn't forget the portrait. Every time he did something bad, he would go to the attic and look at the painting. Each time it had changed a little more, showing the effects of his actions. One day, Dorian looked at the portrait and saw a hint of a sneer on the lips. He remembered Lord Henry's words. The only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it. Dorian began to believe that he could do whatever he wanted, and the portrait would bear the consequences. He started to live a life of pleasure and indulgence. He did things that were wrong and hurtful to others, but he didn't care. He thought he could escape the results of his actions because the portrait would age and change instead of him. Dorian's friends noticed changes in him. He became more distant and secretive. Basil visited him often, trying to talk to him about his behavior. But Dorian always had an excuse or a lie ready. He didn't want anyone to know his secret. As time passed, Dorian's fear of the portrait grew. He would often wake up at night, sweating and scared, thinking about the painting in the attic. He knew that it held the key to his secret, and he was terrified of anyone finding out. Lord Henry gave Dorian a strange book with a yellow cover. The book was full of stories about people who lived only for pleasure. Dorian read it over and over, and it influenced him greatly. He started to believe that the only way to live was to seek out new experiences and sensations, no matter how bad they were. Dorian's behavior became worse. He would disappear for days, visiting bad places and doing bad things. His friends started to notice the changes in him. They whispered about his strange behavior and the rumors that followed him. Basil Hallward, Dorian's old friend, was very worried. He visited Dorian often, trying to talk to him about his actions. But Dorian always laughed it off, saying that he was just enjoying life. "Dorian, people are talking about you," Basil said one day. "They say you are leading a terrible life. You must be careful." But Dorian didn't listen. He laughed and said, "Basil, you worry too much. I am just trying to live my life to the fullest." Dorian continued his bad behavior. He hurt many people, ruining their lives. He would visit the poorest parts of London, looking for new experiences. He didn't care about the people he hurt or the lives he ruined. One day, Dorian did something very bad. He led a young girl into a life of sin. Her brother, who loved her very much, was heartbroken. He blamed Dorian for what happened and wanted to kill him. Dorian heard about the brother's anger and was scared. He didn't want to face the consequences of his actions. He started to carry a gun with him all the time, afraid that the brother might find him. As the years passed, Dorian's fear grew. He knew that he had done many bad things, and he was afraid that someone might find out his secret. He looked at the portrait in the attic often, seeing the changes that showed his cruel and evil life. But he still didn't stop his bad behavior. He thought he could escape the results of his actions forever. One evening, Basil Hallward visited Dorian Gray at his home. Basil was very worried about Dorian and the rumors he had heard. He wanted to talk to Dorian and help him change his ways. "Dorian, I must speak with you," Basil said. "People are saying terrible things about you. They say you have ruined many lives. You must stop this behavior." Dorian was angry. He didn't want to hear Basil's words. He blamed Basil for everything. "Basil, you are the one who painted that portrait," Dorian said. "You are the one who showed me my beauty. You started all of this." Basil was shocked. "Dorian, I only wanted to capture your beauty. I never meant for any of this to happen." Dorian's anger grew. He couldn't stand to hear Basil's words. In a fit of rage, he grabbed a knife and stabbed Basil. Basil fell to the floor dead. Dorian looked at what he had done and panicked. He didn't know what to do. He thought about calling the police, but he was afraid they would find out his secret. He decided to hide Basil's body. He called an old friend, Alan Campbell, who knew about chemicals. Dorian blackmailed Alan, forcing him to help get rid of Basil's body. Alan was scared and didn't want to do it, but Dorian threatened to reveal a secret from Alan's past. After Alan left, Dorian felt a terrible guilt. He knew he had done something very wrong. He went to the attic and looked at the portrait. The face in the painting looked even more cruel and evil. Dorian could see the guilt and fear in the portrait's eyes. Dorian's guilt and fear grew. He started to visit opium dens, trying to escape his feelings. He would spend nights in these dark places, trying to forget what he had done. But the memory of Basil's murder haunted him. Dorian Gray's life became a nightmare. He couldn't escape the guilt and fear that followed him everywhere. He knew that the portrait in the attic held the secret to his terrible life. He decided that he had to destroy it. One night, Dorian went up to the attic. He looked at the portrait and saw the horrible face staring back at him. He couldn't stand it anymore. He took the same knife he had used to kill Basil and stabbed the portrait. As he stabbed the painting, he heard a loud cry. The servants in the house rushed to the attic and found Dorian lying on the floor, dead. But he no longer looked young and beautiful. His body was old and ugly, showing all the signs of his cruel and evil life. The servants were shocked. They looked at the portrait and saw that it had returned to its original state. It showed Dorian as a young and beautiful man, just as Basil had painted him. News of Dorian's death spread quickly. People whispered about the strange events and the rumors that had followed Dorian throughout his life. Lord Henry heard the news and was sad. He had influenced Dorian greatly, but he never knew the true extent of Dorian's actions. In the end, Dorian Gray's wish came true in the most terrible way. He stayed young and beautiful on the outside, but his soul became old and ugly. The portrait showed the truth about his life, and in the end, it revealed his secret to the world. Great job sticking with the story all the way to the end. It's time to review the key ideas with a fun multiple-choice quiz. You'll find the answers in the comments section. Take your time with the questions, and don't forget to leave a comment below to let us know if you enjoyed the story. Your feedback helps us improve. If you liked it, show your support by hitting the like button. It really makes our day. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Thank you so much for being with us.